Hey, you guys! Ever imagined your wedding day, the best day of your life, turning into a total nightmare? Stick with me, because this story's gonna make your heart pound, your eyes glued to the screen, and maybe even bring a tear or two. It's not just a wedding, it's a full on battle between fierce love and a dark, twisted plot, where grit burns like a fire you can't put out. Buckle up, because we're diving into a wild ride packed with drama, heart-bursting moments, and twists that'll have you yelling, "No way!" Don't miss out. This tale will flip how you see love and the strength we've all got inside. Let's go. I stood there. My heart stopped. My bare feet trembled on the icy wooden floor of the bride's suite at the Ace Hotel in Seattle. In front of me, my wedding dress, a satin masterpiece I'd spent 8 months perfecting, lay shredded, seams ripped apart, splattered with black ink like the blood of a murdered dream. The sharp, sour stench of ink hit my nose, mixing with the fading scent of lilies from the bouquet I'd just dropped in shock. But what froze my blood wasn't the dress. It was the cold, venomous glare of Dorothy Sullivan, my soon-to-be mother-in-law. She loomed in the room, her bony hands clutching a shimmering pearl necklace, a Sullivan family heirloom worth millions. "You think you can waltz into our family, Nora Evans?" she hissed, each word slithering through her teeth like a snake's venom. "The cops are on their way. You'll be arrested for theft right here, before you even step near that altar." Me, Nora Evans, 27 years old, never dreamed my wedding day, the day I'd been buzzing about with a racing heart and starry eyes, would turn into a horrifying trap just 30 minutes before the ceremony. My hands shook, not from fear, but from a fury boiling up inside me, hot as lava in my chest. My three bridesmaids, Claire, Maggie, and Jade, stood frozen, eyes wide with panic, their lilac dresses fading into the thick, tense air. "Mrs. Sullivan," I said, my voice shaky but firm, fumbling for my phone in my robe pocket. "What are you doing?" She let out a harsh, grating laugh, like nails on a chalkboard. "What am I doing? Saving my son from a viper like you. A little assistant from some nowhere publishing gig, raised in Tacoma's slums. You think you're worthy of the Sullivans? I set this whole thing up to lock you away. That necklace was reported missing this morning, and now it's here, in your room. You're done, Nora." My head spun, but I didn't crumple. My fingers flew across my phone screen, hitting record, a gut instinct kicking in amid the storm. Claire darted to the window, yanking the curtains open to let Seattle's gray light flood in, cracking the glass to amplify the wail of police sirens, a low, chilling roar, like fate closing in. "You'll never marry Ethan," Dorothy went on, her voice dripping with smug triumph. "I'll tell everyone you're a thief, a filthy rat clawing for Sullivan money. Ethan'll go back to Lydia Prescott, that girl with a real estate mogul dad. And you? You'll rot in jail instead of walking down the aisle." I took a deep breath, locking eyes with her. "You sure about that?" My voice cut like a blade now, my hand flipping the phone screen toward her. It showed the live stream from the ceremony area, a sweet touch I'd added to share the day with Ethan's grandpa in Portland and my sister in Hawaii. But now, it was my sharpest weapon, catching every vicious word, every arrogant twitch of Dorothy's face. There she stood, necklace in hand, lips pursed in a cocky smirk, while my ruined dress lay silent like a mute witness. Dorothy's face went pale, her eyes popping in horror. "What? What is this?" she stammered, her voice cracking like shattered glass. "Live wedding broadcast," I shot back, ice in my tone. It's been rolling for 20 minutes, guests arriving, the band tuning up, and you admitting you framed me. It's all streaming, Mrs. Sullivan." The sirens grew louder, a growling warning closing in. Dorothy lunged, clawing for my phone in a frantic panic, but Maggie, tall and solid, stepped up, blocking her with a voice like steel. "Mrs. Sullivan, the whole world just heard your confession. Cops are almost here, and I'd bet they'll want to chat with you, not Nora." My phone buzzed like crazy, texts lighting up the screen. Jade peeked over, her lips parting in a stunned gasp. "Nora! Ethan texted! He saw the stream and he's running over!" My heart danced, a mix of ache and hope. But before I could react, Dorothy spun around, gripping the necklace like it was her last lifeline. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she screamed, her voice breaking in desperation. "I just wanted to scare you off. I couldn't let the Sullivans fall to someone like you. Not after what I've been through." She paused, her eyes flashing with a wild spark, then hurled the necklace to the floor, stomping it hard. Pearls burst apart, scattering across the wood like pale, broken tears. The door flew open. Hinges screeched like a banshee. Ethan Sullivan stood there, his black tux crumpled from sprinting, his deep blue eyes blazing with a fury I'd never seen. He looked at me, then at his mom, and finally at the wrecked dress and the pearl wreckage under her feet. Behind him, two cops stepped in, their dark blue uniforms stark against the dim light, flanked by the hotel manager. A petite woman, her face white with worry. "Mom," Ethan growled, each word a sharp cut. "Don't tell me you just tried to frame Nora for theft to ruin our wedding day." Dorothy shrank back, but she snapped up her fake pride, trembling hands snatching a stray pearl. "Ethan, honey, you don't get it. I did this for you. She's after our money. I've seen her kind destroy everything. I'm just protecting you from this mistake." Her voice cracked, but her eyes stayed sharp, like she thought lies could still save her. Memories hit me hard, bitter and raw like a knife to the gut. It was my first time meeting Dorothy, 6 months back at a Sullivan family dinner. I'd walked into their swanky Capitol Hill mansion, clutching a cheap bottle of wine, the only gift my assistant paycheck could swing. Dorothy, decked out in a pricey red silk dress, sized me up, her lips tightening into a sneer. "Ethan," she'd said right in front of me, her tone syrupy but poisonous. "Are you sure? A broke assistant from Tacoma? I fell for a guy like that once, a gardener from the wrong side of town. He conned me, stole half my granddad's fortune before ditching me. I lost my inheritance because of him, and I swore I'd never let you fall into that trap." Ethan had laughed it off, squeezing my hand, but her stare haunted me for nights after. Now it clicked. Dorothy didn't just hate where I came from. She was trapped by her own scars, a betrayal that turned me into the ghost of the man who broke her. "Stop it!" Ethan roared, his voice shaking the room. He stepped closer, his strong hands grabbing mine, warm and steady in the chaos. "Ah, I saw it all on the stream, Mom. You're not protecting me. You're tearing apart everything I care about." I handed him my phone, the live stream still rolling. Every second a live testament. "Ethan," I said, my voice catching with a mess of feelings, anger, hurt, resolve. "Your mom admitted she set me up to go to jail. She smashed that necklace to pile on the blame, but I'm not letting her win." Ethan looked at me, his eyes shining with fierce love and pain. He turned to his mom, his voice low but razor sharp. "You thought you could use the Sullivan name to control everything, but you crossed the line today." Before Dorothy could answer, his dad, Thomas Sullivan, strode in, his tall frame imposing in a silver-gray suit, his face dark as a storm about to break. "Dorothy," he said, his deep voice carrying a quiet menace, "what have you done to this family?" Dorothy wheeled on him, her eyes pleading in desperation. "Thomas, you've got to understand. The Prescotts are better for Ethan. I loved a guy like Nora once, a low-life gardener who tricked me, stole my inheritance. I can't let Ethan lose everything like I did." Her words hit me like a punch, but they lit up the truth. Dorothy wasn't just haunted by her friend Margaret Klein's downfall. She'd lived it herself, loved hard and got burned, leaving a wound that twisted her into the puppet master she was now. I stared at her, my voice soft but cutting. "I'm not that gardener, Mrs. Sullivan, and Ethan's not you. You can't relive your past through me." "By framing her before her wedding?" Thomas cut in, his tone icy, his eyes flashing deep disappointment. "You didn't just humiliate Nora, you humiliated the Sullivans." A cop stepped forward, his voice flat but firm. "Mrs. Sullivan, we got a report about a stolen family heirloom, but based on that live stream, we need you to explain yourself." Dorothy staggered, her hands dropping, her gaze lost as the cops closed in. "It's a misunderstanding!" she shrieked, her voice splintering. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Ethan gripped my hand tighter, his breathing fast but his eyes steady. Nora, what do you want? Cancel it or keep going. It's your call. I looked at the ruined dress, once a dazzling dream, now a heap of rags, then at my bridesmaids, my best friends, waiting for my signal. A fire of resolve flared up inside me, hot and unstoppable. Keep going, I said, my voice ringing like a battle cry. But not in that dress. Maggie, call Elena at Seattle Brides. See if she's got any samples left. Maggie nodded, her eyes sparking with hope. That white silk one with the long lace sleeves? It'll hug you like it was made for you. Thomas stepped up, pulling his phone from his suit pocket, his voice low but decisive. I'll send the driver to grab it. Where's the address? Claire bolted to the table, scribbling it down, while Jade rushed to the door to tell the hotel manager to reset the ceremony space. But before things kicked back into gear, I stepped closer to Dorothy, my voice quiet but sharp. You thought a broken necklace and a few lies could stop me from marrying Ethan? You were wrong. Dorothy glared back, her eyes spitting hate mixed with fear. You don't know what you've started, Nora. You'll regret this. My whole family will turn on you. She spun away, letting the cops lead her out, her heels clicking faintly down the hall like a fading tune. After Dorothy left, the room went dead quiet. I sank onto a velvet chair, hands covering my face, my breath shaky. Claire knelt beside me, her voice gentle. Nora, you okay? I looked up, my eyes stinging but dry. I almost lost everything, Claire. She didn't just want to wreck the wedding. She wanted to destroy me to protect a past she can't let go of. Maggie put a hand on my shoulder, her voice solid. You fought back and won, Nora. The next 30 minutes were a whirlwind, intense and crazy. Elena from Seattle Brides swooped in like an angel, hauling 3 sample dresses, her hands flying as she laid them out. The bride's suite turned into a fashion war zone, with Claire, Maggie, and Jade diving in to help me try them on, laughter and excited shouts cutting through the tension. This one, Claire cheered, holding up a white silk dress with long lace sleeves, soft as a cloud, glowing like moonlight. It's perfect, Nora! You look like a queen rising from the ashes! Elena pinned the waist, her stitches lightening fast. Meanwhile, Ethan headed back to the ceremony area, facing a buzzing crowd of guests. Through the live stream, I heard his voice ring out, strong, loaded with emotion. Today didn't start how we pictured it, he said, his eyes steady with determination. But Nora and I believe love isn't about perfect moments. It's about facing the storm together. Claps erupted through the phone's speaker, a victory symphony, but not everyone cheered. I caught murmurs, skeptical voices. Is she really innocent? Dorothy wouldn't do that. It's got to be a mix-up. A guy's low voice piped up from the back. I don't buy it. Nora set her up to snag Ethan and the Sullivan cash. Jade adjusted the veil on my head, her hands trembling with excitement. Done, she whispered, stepping back to admire me. You've never looked more stunning, Nora. I checked the mirror, my heart thumping. The dress wasn't my original pick, but it was bold, graceful, alive. Just like me now, unbroken and reborn from the wreckage. Thomas knocked and stepped in, his presence commanding, his eyes twinkling with pride. Nora, he said, his voice warm and deep, you're breathtaking. I'm sorry about Dorothy. What she did is unforgivable. I smiled, though my chest still ached. You don't need to apologize, Mr. Sullivan. You didn't set the trap. He nodded, his gaze softening. Ethan says everyone's ready whenever you are. But some folks, including Ethan's cousin Lucas, doubt you. They think you planned this. I'll handle it. So, I nodded back, my voice firm. Let them doubt me. The live stream tells the truth. The hotel manager slipped in, her voice hesitant but kind. Miss Evans, guests are asking what's up. Some want to leave, Lucas just walked out with a few others. Should we say something? I glanced at the trashed dress one last time, then turned to her. Tell them plans changed, but the wedding's on in 20 minutes. And keep that live stream going. I want everyone to see this whole journey. 15 minutes later, as me and my bridesmaids crossed the hotel's little garden, my steps steady on the stone path, I knew every second was live. This wasn't a classic bride's entrance. It was a bold statement that no scheme, no slander could snuff out our love. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of wildflowers, blending with the growing roar of applause from the ceremony space. But I caught whispers too. Is she really innocent? Lucas was right. She's a gold digger. A middle-aged woman, Dorothy's friend, stood up, her voice shrill. This is a scam! Nora staged it to take Dorothy down. Ethan waited at the entrance, his eyes shining like a lighthouse, his hand reaching for mine. Ready to marry me yet? He asked, his voice brimming with love. More ready than ever, I replied, squeezing his hand. But before stepping in, I faced the crowd, grabbing the mic from the best man, my voice booming through the live stream. I know some of you doubt me, Lucas, that lady over there, and whoever's whispering, but the truth's on tape. I don't need you to believe me. I need Ethan, and anyone here for love, not prejudice or Dorothy's lies. Applause exploded, drowning out the murmurs, and the woman sank back, her face flushed. The ceremony that followed wasn't anything we'd planned. It was alive, chaotic, real down to every breath. As I walked down the aisle, guests shot to their feet, clapping like thunder, not in stiff silence, but in a burst of joy and respect. Thomas stood front row, eyes gleaming with pride, though the seat next to him, Dorothy's, was empty, a bitter reminder. But I noticed other gaps too. Lucas and his crew had bailed, leaving a quiet sting in my chest. Pastor James stood at the altar, his voice warm but powerful. Folks, today we're not just seeing a wedding, we're witnessing love's epic win over darkness. Nora and Ethan faced their first test, a cruel setup, and they came through with guts, grit, and unshakable love. The crowd hushed, listening close, some wiping tears, others gripping hands tighter. When we said our vows, Ethan held my hands, his eyes locked on mine, his voice ringing like an unbreakable oath. I promise to stand by you, Nora, against anyone or anything that tries to tear us apart. Darkness, my family, the whole damn world. His words weren't scripted, but they hit hard, raw and real, making my heart thrum. My turn came, and I looked at him, my voice quivering but fierce. I promise to build a future with you, Ethan, where no lies, no schemes can ever break us. For the ring exchange, Ethan patted his pocket, his face flashing panic. The rings had been with Dorothy before it all blew up. Thomas stepped up, pulling a small velvet box from his suit, his voice soft. Got him back from security, just in case. The crowd chuckled, a warm sound cutting the tension. As the ring slid onto my finger, cool and solid, I felt a new strength. Not just a promise, but the start of something invincible. When the pastor declared us husband and wife, applause erupted, crashing like waves, washing away the pain of the hours before. Ethan pulled me into his arms, his kiss deep and fierce, a seal on our victory. As we walked back up the aisle, I saw friends, co-workers from the publishing house, even strangers, all standing, eyes shining with awe, like we weren't just bride and groom, but warriors who'd survived a brutal fight. But as we left the ceremony space, Ethan tugged me to a quiet corner, his eyes shadowed with emotion. Nora, he whispered, his voice thick, I almost lost you today. When I saw that stream, I thought Mom had won. And Lucas didn't think he'd turn his back. I touched his cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin. She didn't win, Ethan. And Lucas, he'll see the truth or he won't. We're stronger than all of them. He hugged me tight, his breath shaky, and in that moment, amid the crowd's noise, I felt our love, deep, fragile, unbreakable. The reception in the Aces ballroom wasn't the party I'd pictured. It buzzed with wild energy, defiance, and triumph. Someone whipped up an Instagram filter with a blazing fire, and Nora and Ethan unstoppable, spreading like wildfire online. "Your wedding's blowing up Twitter," Claire yelled over the music, her eyes sparkling as she scrolled her phone. Hashtag Zach Unbreakable Love is trending in Seattle. Ethan's best friend, Ryan, a media guy, ran over, grinning wide. Seattle Times wants an interview. They're calling it the gutsiest wedding of the year after the live stream hit 100K views. But Lucas posted on Facebook, "Says you're a manipulator, Nora." I sighed, brushing it off. Let him talk. The truth's out there. But as the party peaked, a figure stepped into the ballroom, dimming the vibe. It was Margaret Klein, Dorothy's old friend she'd mentioned in her meltdown. She wore a long black dress, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd before locking on me. In her hands was a blown-up photo from a security cam. Me near the Sullivan House safe, my hand on the door. A shot from months ago when I'd helped Ethan grab some papers. The music faded, heads turned. "Nora Evans!" she barked, her voice echoing. "Think you've won?" "Dorothy was just protecting Ethan from leeches like you. Like the girl who ruined my family 20 years back. Here's proof. You've been after that necklace all along, and you rigged that live stream to cover it up. I'm taking this to the cops." The room went silent, whispers rippling, phones popping up to record. A voice cut through from the corner. "Lucas. Told you, she's a fraud." I stood, gripping my dress, my heart racing but steady. "Mrs. Klein," I said, calm but sharp. "That's me grabbing papers for Ethan. He'll back me up. The live stream wasn't my scheme. It was for his family, and Dorothy spilled her own confession on it. Take it to the cops if you want, but bring the full tape, not some cropped picture." Ethan stood with me, his hand on my shoulder, his voice thundering. "Mrs. Klein, if you've got real proof, show it now. Otherwise, this is our wedding, not your game, or my mom's." He turned to Lucas, eyes blazing. "And you, Lucas, if you trust Mom over your own cousin, walk out again, but don't expect me to forgive you." Thomas stepped up, his presence towering, his voice low but firm. "Margaret, that's enough. Dorothy dug her own grave, and I've got the full security footage. Nora never touched that necklace. Leave, or I'm calling security." Klein backed off, her eyes spitting fire but silent, tossing the photo to the floor before storming out. Lucas stood there, pale, then followed her, leaving a tense hush that melted as the music kicked back in. "You just knocked him out again," Maggie whispered, hugging me with a laugh. As the party rolled on, I saw Thomas working the room, chatting with guests, his eyes stern yet relieved. Aunt Ellen, Thomas's sister, came to our table, her voice a soft murmur. "Thomas is cleaning up Dorothy's mess. She's in custody, and some city council pals ditched her after the stream, but Lucas and a few others are still on her side. They say Nora set her up." Ethan squeezed my hand under the table, his voice low. "Dad's always been the strong one, but Mom never saw it. She was too busy living in her past." When the first dance started, a slow, sweet ballad, I noticed the tables near the stage, once packed with Dorothy's high society buddies, were empty. Instead, my publishing coworkers, high school pals, and random guests filled the gaps with laughter and real support. "Thomas handled the damage control like a pro," Ryan said, sipping wine. "He thanked everyone who stayed and quietly got rid of Dorothy's loyalists." Ethan watched his dad across the dance floor, his eyes glinting with fresh respect. 29 years married, and today, Dad finally broke free of her shadow. I leaned into his shoulder, feeling his heartbeat sync with the music. "Us too, Ethan. Today's not just our wedding, it's our freedom." But as the dance ended, I caught a small group whispering, pointing my way. An older guy, another Dorothy pal, stepped up, his voice cold. "Nice move, Nora. Staging that live stream to take her down. You don't fool me." I straightened, meeting his gaze. "The stream doesn't lie, sir. Believe what you want." The photographer, A young guy Dorothy had hired sidled over nervously. "Mrs. Sullivan, I mean, Nora," he said with an awkward grin. "I got some killer shots. But that Dorothy and Cops bit, some guests filmed it. Want me to tell him to keep it quiet?" I glanced at Ethan, then smiled. "Nah, let him share. This is our story, scars and all." My phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a local news alert. Dorothy's confession clip had smashed 200K views, comments flooding in, tons of support, plus personal stories of facing toxic families. But there were haters too. She framed her mother-in-law, obvious. The Sullivans don't deserve this. A small article popped up. Livestream bride, hero or hustler? I read it, my heart twinging, but I grinned. Truth won out. Ethan's cousin Tessa approached our table, her voice shaky but steady. "Nora, Ethan, not everyone in the Sullivan family's like Aunt Dorothy. Most of us are floored and rooting for you. But Lucas, he called me today, said I'm betraying the family for not siding with her." I took her hand, emotion swelling. "Thanks, Tessa. You don't have to pick between us and him, but Lucas made the wrong choice." As the party wound down, Ethan got a text from Thomas. He read it silently, then showed me, his eyes a mix of hurt and relief. "Mom's in custody overnight. Dad says she's demanding her own lawyer, but he's not footing the bill. He says everything changes after today. For her. For us." I rested my hand on his, my voice soft. "You okay?" He smiled, sad but strong. "Better than ever, Nora. Mom's been stuck in her past too long, but today, I chose our future." Our honeymoon in Hawaii was a sweet dream after the nightmare. Under Waikiki's blazing sun, Ethan and I sat on the balcony, scrolling through texts during our daily reality check. "Dad says Mom got her own lawyer," Ethan said, his tone even, "but she's still playing victim. Lucas posted again, says he'll prove you're guilty." I chuckled, the sea breeze ruffling my hair. Hard to play victim when the world heard her confess on that stream. Lucas, he's just digging himself deeper. Seattle media turned our story into a wildfire. From wedding scandal to a symbol of grit and justice, it blew up. A local mag reached out for an interview, dubbing me the unbreakable bride. But they also asked, "Is Nora Evans really innocent?" My boss at the publishing house texted that clients wanted to work with the live stream hero. "They want you to speak at a crisis overcoming workshop," I read aloud, laughing. Ethan held my hand, his fingers brushing my ring. "Only if you want, Nora. I don't care what the world thinks, as long as you're happy." I thought about messages from strangers, folks crushed by in-laws, thanking us for giving them guts. "Maybe we should share it," I said, my voice thoughtful. "Not how I pictured my wedding, but it's real. Like us." Ethan pulled me close, his voice tender. "Realer than any dream, Nora." 3 months later, we hit the Sullivan Foundation's annual gala at the Seattle Art Museum, our first public gig since the honeymoon. Dorothy used to run it, but now Thomas had remade it. "Nervous?" Ethan asked as our car pulled up, his hand tightening on mine. "A little," I admitted, smoothing my sapphire dress, a gift from Elena, who'd spun my story into her Rise from the Dark campaign. Inside, the vibe was warm, welcoming, a far cry from the old icy standoffs. Thomas greeted us, his eyes beaming pride. "Here they are, the couple who inspired our new project." He led us to an exhibit, Unbroken Spirits, aid for folks overcoming family struggles. The logo was a stylized flame, a rebirth symbol. "We've helped 25 people," Thomas said, his voice proud. "All thanks to you two." Mingling, a young woman approached, her eyes bright. "Miss Evans, your story got me out of a toxic in-law mess. I've got my own shop now." I hugged her, my heart warming. But not everyone was thrilled. An older guy, a Dorothy crony, watched me from afar, his stare icy. A week after the gala, Ethan got a call from Thomas. He listened, his face tight, then turned to me. "Mom's back in Seattle," he said, his voice heavy. She showed up at the house with a lawyer, demanding to see me and Dad. She wants to sue for control of the foundation, says Dad can't cut her out. Lucas was with her, claims he's got new evidence. I grabbed his hand, my chest tightening. What did your dad say? Ethan sighed, his eyes tired. Dad wouldn't meet her. He said she needs a shrink first, and if she sues, he'll use the live stream in court. They left, but Lucas swore he's not done. The next day, Tessa called, her voice wobbly. Nora, Aunt Dorothy came to my parents' place. She was crying, saying the family's turned on her because of you and Ethan. Lucas was there, convincing my folks you're a liar. I don't know what to do. I feel for her, but I can't forgive her. I exhaled, my voice gentle. Tessa, you don't have to choose between us and them. But she and Lucas have to own this. No one forced them. Ethan hugged me from behind, his voice rough. I don't know if Mom and Lucas will quit or keep fighting, but I don't regret a thing, Nora. That wedding day, I chose you, and I'd choose you 1,000 times over. I turned, meeting his eyes, feeling our love's depth. No matter what they do, we're in this together, right? He kissed my forehead, his voice soft. Always, Nora. A month later, on a rainy Seattle night, Ryan texted us, "Turn on the TV now!" We flipped to the local news, and there was Dorothy, standing outside the Sullivan building, hair a mess in the downpour, clutching a mic in a sudden press conference. "I'm not the villain!" she yelled, her voice cracking through the rain. "Nora Evans manipulated my son, my family. I've got proof. Lucas and I will take her to court. I won't let the Sullivans fall to a con artist." The camera panned to Lucas, holding a stack of papers, his eyes wild. "We've got a recording." Nora admitting she planned it all. But before she could go on, Thomas appeared behind her, calm but commanding, flanked by 2 guards. "Dorothy," he said, his voice cutting through via a reporter's mic. "You've gone too far. That recording's fake. I had it checked with our lawyer. The live stream's the truth, and the world knows it. Sue if you want. You and Lucas will lose, just like today." Guards stepped in, guiding Dorothy and Lucas away gently but firmly, as she screamed, "I won't lose! I won't lose!" Her cries faded into the rain, the camera shifting to the anchor wrapping up. Another chapter of Sullivan drama closes. But is this really the end? My phone lit up with a text from Dorothy's sister, Lillian, someone I'd never met. "Nora, Ethan," it read. "I just saw the news. I'm sorry for my sister. She was wrong, and I'm ashamed I didn't speak up sooner. I left Seattle years ago to escape her control, but today I need to say, you deserve this happiness. Congrats." I read it aloud, tears rolling down my cheeks, not from sadness, but a strange, sweet relief. Ethan held me tighter, his voice husky. "Some fires destroy, Nora, but ours. It makes us unstoppable, and now the whole world knows it." I leaned into him, watching the rain streak the window, knowing no matter how hard Dorothy and Lucas fought, they couldn't put us out. So there you go, folks. That's my insane, emotional, unbeatable story. A wedding day that kicked off with a plot and ended in a win no one saw coming. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Ever faced a mess like this? Hit like, share this out, and spread the word. Real love finds a way, and I hope you do too.